Hello, my name is Kimberly Lawson, Kimberly Hilton Lawson, and today I will be talking about Vygotsky's terminology, ideas, collaboration in a student environment. Sometimes it may be the student environment, oftentimes it's the work environment. This collaboration process can take place anywhere learning is available. So one of the topics I want to speak on is, what is his role in group work? So typically when you think of group work, some people, hey, I don't want to work in groups. I'd rather work alone. But in order for collaboration to be successful, you have to be willing to work with not only your peers, you have to be able to work with people that you may not agree with. So in this particular part, I will be speaking on, different learning processes, different techniques. So in some cases, when you are working within a group, different members bring different ideas together. So this is what we have, where the skills and abilities to understand new concepts. For instance, when we think of 10 plus 10 or 30 plus 30 or 40 plus 40, 10 plus 10 is always going to be 20. But there are different ways to teach it. When we were younger, for instance, I use myself. When I started school in the early 80s, there were different methods of teaching. It was a one solid method. But when peers come together, they are able to learn new ideas to reach the kids who may have problems counting by 10. So maybe they can't count by 10, maybe they can count by 5. So these teams come together in order to help the students be able to learn and be able to process how to move forward. 10 plus 10, you're going to have to know 20 plus 20, 30 plus 30. I oftentimes think of when my kids started school, when I taught them, doing homework, I taught them how I learned. And I remember one day the teacher called and said, "Hey, Miss Lawson, I know your daughter has her work correct, but this is not how we teach math." And so I had to take a step back. So this is important when you're working in groups. You learn different ideas. You learn different standards. What was effective then 20 years ago may not be effective now. So you're able to bring all of these new concepts together. You're able to reach the kid who picks up on learning like this. You're able to, bring in a child maybe who struggles. So this is one of the things that Vygotsky's talks about. Also, I want to ask a question. I'm asking myself this question: how can scaffolding assist in group learning? So scaffolding is similar to pairing children with learning abilities. I call them learning abilities. In reality, we previously called them learning disabilities. And settings with children who typically don't struggle to read, to write. And what we found, pairing those kids together, sometimes the teacher, maybe a math teacher, science teacher, they call it ELA now, they may not be able to reach that particular child. But when you pair them in groups with kids who for some reason don't struggle, those kids turn to drift more towards that student or that peer versus the teacher. They are able to take in the information from their peer because, regardless of your learning abilities, children are children. Some a little bit mature, some are immature. But at the end of the day, these kids are able to reach other kids. And I can say, speaking from my perspective, a parent of a child that has a learning disability. These are some of the things in his earlier days. The school system where we're located brought to my attention and said, hey, if you're willing, if you sign the paperwork, we're going to put him in a class with kids who are what we call accelerated readers. And within a course of maybe 9 weeks, his reading scores drastically improved outside of what we were teaching him at home outside of what his teacher in the class was teaching him. So he was able to learn and grow from the class of kids that he was placed in. So another question I want to ask myself is, what role does internalization play in group learning process? So the group learning process, it transforms shared experiences into individual understanding. So I may have an experience, you may have an experience, Sally, John may all have experience. They are similar, but they are different. So if we're in this group setting, we can all bring together our shared experience in order to be able to provide some type of standardized training. Maybe we can, go to the school board and say, hey, upon all of our knowledge put together, we are able to bring a new learning technique to the class. So that's why it's important to work within groups and not be a silo team, even within the school system. What I learned as a very short period of time being a parent advocate for parents of children with learning disabilities, we were not allowed to give suggestions per se, but if the parent asks, hey, my child struggles with reading, my child struggles with math, my child struggles with learning to tie their shoes, then we as parents of children with learning disabilities was then able to give some of the things that work for us, not from a medical standpoint, not from an educational standpoint, but from a parent perspective. These are some of the things that we tried that was successful with our child. Maybe you can try it. Not saying it will work, but hey, it's worth a shot. So these are some of the things that, internalization and play in the group learning process helps everyone. You learn skills, the other person learns skills, and then those skills combined could help the classroom setting. It may help, in a group home if you choose to volunteer in a group home. There are other ways outside of the classroom that all these skills can help navigate a person's learning abilities. Going back to when I was a parent advocate a few years ago, maybe from 2017 up until 2020 when COVID kind of hit us across our head, I was able to share a lot of experience. Sometimes parents just wanted you to listen. Other times they would say, hey, I'm having these issues. We were not able to talk about medical situations per se, because of HIPAA, but we were able to give advice on different learning techniques. Like I stated earlier, whether it was math, whether it was reading, whether it was even some parents, struggled at the time with getting kids up in the morning, having them go to bed at night. And as a parent advocate, you could only give your advice based on some of the experience that you experienced as a parent. So working in these type of group and learning processes helps to shape not just the individual. It helps to shape everyone in the group. I hope what I talked about tonight is nice. A beautiful night here in South Carolina. Not too hot, not too cold, but a little chill in the air. So I hope you guys were able to grasp some of the things that I've learned thus far in this class. Some of the skills that I'm definitely going to take into the workplace. I am not in education yet, but I do, deliver a lot of training courses on my job. I do develop a lot of SOPs. If you guys don't know what SOP is, a standard operating procedures. So being able to connect with people who are hands-on learners versus people who can just read instruction manual and be able to operate machinery, be able to, just call out a different type of defects we see in manufacturing. I didn't say, but I do work in manufacturing, have been in manufacturing basically all of my work life. In my current role, I'm a quality engineer, but in that role, I'm able to, also teach. And I've always had a passion for teaching. So learning these different skills while I'm learning in the class, the short period of time we have been in the class, has really helped to shape some of the things and some of the content that I will be, developing in the future. So once again, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate and I hope that you were able to learn something from what I talked about tonight.